Anthony Joshua stepped back onto American soil with unfinished business on his mind. Years earlier, this same country had witnessed his stunning defeat to Andy Ruiz Jr., a loss that shook the heavyweight division. Tonight, Joshua was chasing redemption, hoping for a very different outcome in his return to the U.S. spotlight. Standing across from him was Jake Paul, a man still fighting for credibility inside the boxing world. One fighter sought to restore his reputation, the other aimed to protect what he believed was his rising legacy. It was more than a fight. It was a clash of identity and ambition. Joshua carried clear physical advantages. He towered over Paul by nearly 5 inches and enjoyed a reach edge of about 6 inches. Both men favored the jab as their primary weapon, but their intent could not have been more different. Joshua's jab was meant to dominate. Paul's jab was meant to survive. As the bell rang for round 1, Jake Paul immediately began circling the ring, trying to stay light on his feet. Anthony Joshua moved with purpose, calm and composed, measuring distance with that long, stiff lead hand. The jab snapped out early from Joshua and popped Paul's head back, a warning shot that echoed through the arena. Paul searched for his overhand right, hoping to land the kind of punch that could change everything. But Joshua stayed patient, leaning forward just enough to cut off space without overcommitting. Paul found himself near the ropes far too early, with Joshua standing over him like a looming shadow. Coming into the fight, Paul weighed just under 217 pounds, noticeably lighter than he had been against Mike Tyson in his previous heavyweight outing the year before. He appeared faster but also more fragile. His strategy was obvious. Dart in with quick combinations, then escape before Joshua could answer. For a brief moment, Paul landed a clean jab of his own. It connected sharply and drew a small reaction from Joshua. That success encouraged him. He tried again, stepping in behind another jab, then swinging a right hand. But Joshua calmly absorbed it and reset. Most observers never expected the fight to reach this stage. Many believed Joshua would end things quickly. Yet as the rounds progressed, it became clear that this contest was being fought not only with fists but with positioning, patience, and survival. Paul returned to basics, jabbing and moving, trying to inch his way inside Joshua's reach. It was the only path he had. Step in, jab, retreat. Step in, jab, retreat. Then the momentum changed violently. A sharp exchange left Paul marked. A cut appeared and his movement slowed. He suddenly dropped to one knee, not from a clean knockdown but from exhaustion and pressure. It was not Joshua who forced him down. It was the toll of the moment itself. Still, the count began, and the warning was clear. Danger had arrived. Joshua pressed forward. A right hand followed by a left slammed into Paul's guard. Joshua had him pinned near the corner. Paul's hands dropped briefly, and Joshua wasted no time. Paul fired back desperately, unleashing a wild right hand and a looping left, trying to prove he could still fight. Joshua answered by digging a brutal shot into Paul's body. A heavy left thudded into the ribs, followed by another clean punch upstairs. The crowd buzzed. Phones lit up everywhere as messages spread across social media asking the same question. What is happening? Joshua stalked him like a predator. Another crushing body shot landed. The referee ruled it a knockdown as Paul staggered back, struggling to regain balance. On the replay it was clear. The punch to the body had done real damage. Paul tried to shrug it off and counter with a right of his own, but Joshua's left hook followed him. His foot slipped slightly, and his face twisted with pain as he stepped backward. Joshua saw it. A sharp counter right landed flush. Paul dropped again. The second knockdown of the round. The count echoed through the arena. 5, 6, 7, 8. Paul rose, but his legs told a different story. He tried to bait Joshua into charging recklessly, but instead it was Paul who paid the price. He had now touched the canvas twice in a single round. The reality was unavoidable. This was a cruiserweight competing in only his second heavyweight fight, standing across from a proven knockout artist seeking his 26th stoppage victory. Still, Paul pressed forward. Courage or desperation, no one could tell. His breathing was heavy. His movements were slower. His balance was unsteady. Joshua trapped him again. A crushing right hand dropped Paul for the third time. 3 knockdowns. 1 round. The story had shifted completely. Paul stood again, but his body betrayed him. This was no longer about tactics. It was about survival. He needed to move, to circle, to stay off the ropes like he had in the early moments. But fatigue had locked his legs in place. His feet would not obey his mind. Joshua fired a right uppercut that snapped Paul's head back. It was astonishing that he remained upright. Another punch landed. And another. Paul's hands were now hanging low, no longer guarding his face properly. He knew he was hurt. Everyone could see it. Even if Paul managed to land his best punch now, it would not be enough. The energy had drained from his strikes. Power was gone. The resistance remained, but the damage had been done. Joshua remained patient. Clinical. He did not rush. He did not swing wildly. He waited for openings and punished them. This was not just a fight, it was a demonstration of levels. One man was trying to prove he belonged. The other was reminding the world who he truly was. The crowd was already on its feet as the final moments of the round unfolded. Every second felt heavier than the last, the tension thick in the air like electricity before a storm. Both fighters were breathing hard now, sweat flying with every movement, gloves rising and falling like tired shields in a war of willpower. Then suddenly it happened. A sharp left hand sliced through the space between them. The impact was clean, brutal, unavoidable. Jake Paul never saw it coming. His guard was just a fraction too low. His chin exposed for a heartbeat too long. And in boxing, a heartbeat is all it takes. As he tried to reset his stance, the follow-up punch came crashing in. A thunderous right hand that landed straight and true. The sound of leather meeting bone echoed through the arena, louder than the cheers, louder than the music, louder than the announcer's voice. Down went Jake Paul. He didn't stumble. He didn't fall slowly. He dropped. His body collapsed to the canvas like the strings had been cut. The arena gasped in one united breath as he hit the mat. The referee immediately moved in, standing over him, arms raised, voice cutting through the chaos. 1. Jake rolled slightly, trying to collect himself. 2. His gloves pressed against the floor as he attempted to push up. 3. The crowd began to roar, sensing the end. 4. Jake lifted his head, eyes blinking, trying to focus. 5. His legs twitched as he tried to rise. 6. He made it to one knee. 7. He struggled upward, pulling himself to his feet like a man climbing out of deep water. 8. He stood barely, unsteady, humbly, but standing. "Are you okay?" the referee demanded, looking into his eyes. Jake nodded. He wanted to continue. He wanted to prove he could survive. But it was already written on his face. He knew. Everyone knew. The punch that dropped him had changed the fight forever. Across the ring, Anthony Joshua stood tall, chest rising and falling, eyes locked forward. He didn't rush. He didn't celebrate yet. He simply waited, like a lion watching wounded prey, knowing the job was almost finished. Moments earlier, it had seemed like Jake Paul might survive the round. He had taken shots before. He had shown toughness. He had absorbed punishment and stayed upright longer than many expected. People had doubted him, laughed at him, said he didn't belong in the same ring as a real heavyweight champion. Yet there he was, still standing after eating some of the hardest punches of the fight. But boxing is not about surviving forever. It is about what happens when the mistake finally comes. And Jake made that mistake. Hands too low, chin too high, timing too late. Joshua saw it instantly. The right hand that ended the fight didn't come from anger. Came from experience. Years of training. Years of wars in the ring. Years of knowing exactly when to strike. When the referee waved his arms and stepped between them, the reality hit like another punch. It was over. Knockout. The announcer's voice exploded through the speakers as the arena erupted. Fans jumped to their feet, shouting, clapping, filming, screaming. The sound rolled like thunder across the stadium. Joshua raised his arms, muscles shining under the bright lights. He paced the ring with controlled excitement, shaking his head as if to say, "I told you so." His face showed relief, pride, and dominance all at once. Jake Paul stood near the ropes, stunned. His mouth was slightly open, chest rising rapidly. He stared ahead, trying to understand what had just happened. The fight had lasted longer than many expected. He had taken punishment. He had gotten back up when others might not have. But in the end, reality had arrived with full force. One clean shot had changed everything. The replay rolled across the big screen. There it was again. The opening. The left hand. The crushing right. Slow motion revealed the truth. Jake's gloves were down. His chin was waiting. Joshua's punch landed perfectly. Not wild, not desperate, but precise. The kind of punch that ends nights and rewrites stories. Commentators could hardly contain themselves. "He took some serious shots," one of them said. "He showed heart, no doubt about it. But that right hand, that was the difference," another voice added. "He tried to prove he belonged in there, and for a moment he did. But champions don't miss those chances." Joshua climbed the corner of the ring and lifted both arms to the crowd. His presence filled the arena. The fans responded with cheers so loud they drowned out the music playing in the background. It felt like a scene from wrestling legends, like a superhero standing victorious after the final battle. Yet this was real. This was boxing. And this was the end. Jake Paul was helped to his corner, sitting on the stool, breathing deeply, nodding slowly as his team spoke to him. There was no anger in his face now, only acceptance. He had stepped into the ring with a giant of the sport, and giants do not fall easily. But tonight he had fallen. The referee raised Joshua's glove in the air. And the winner by knockout, Anthony Joshua. The announcement rang through the arena like a final bell. Fireworks lit up the screen. The crowd exploded again. Cameras zoomed in on Joshua's face. Calm, focused, victorious. The fight would be talked about for a long time. Some would say Jake lasted longer than expected. Others would say the ending was inevitable. But no one could deny the moment that decided everything. That single right hand, delivered when the guard dropped and the chin was exposed. In boxing, there are no second chances once that punch lands. And on this night, it landed perfectly.